Joining me are the next generation of storytellers from the Digital Clubhouse Network of Silicon Valley. So guys, please introduce yourselves.
My name is Bin Lee and I'm 17 years old.
I'm Jennifer and I'm 12 years old.
My name is Diana Nguyen and I'm 19 years old.
My name is Kang and I'm 21.
So Ben, what is the Digital Clubhouse Network?
The Digital Clubhouse Network originated in 1996 from a group of members from NASA who believed that technology should improve the community. So ever since then, the Digital Clubhouse was created, and many youth from all over United States are now creating media which now tells the stories of veterans and other historic figures, for example, the Vietnamese Heritage Project, which captures the life of both people and their past.
Kang, how did the Vietnamese American Heritage Project come about?
Well, it began 3 years ago, and I was in this clubhouse with Warren. He asked me a question, Kang, where did you came from? And I said, Vietnam. Okay, and what else? I said, that's all. And I was kind of embarrassed because I don't know the history of my family and where we came from. So I began to do some research on my families. I learned that my dad was actually a veteran during the Vietnam eras. He volunteers and gave up his dreams as a doctor to serve his own countries. And afterward, we make a documentary about my dad, and that is how the Vietnamese heritage began.
Diana, you were saying that you didn't know much about your family's history when you began, right?
Well, my parents never talked about their own story, so I learned a lot by doing stories of the Vietnamese heritage, and I learned that many Vietnamese suffered from going overseas, and I have a lot of respect for them.
Jennifer, you're telling the story of your family?
I told my dad's story, which he was in the concentration camp during the war, and how he spent 5 years during the labor camp. It was really hard for him because he always kept it inside of him, and he never really talked about it.
As I'm lying on the hard concrete in my dark freezing cell, my stomach continues to scream for any bit of food or drop of water. The energy that is keeping me alive is the hope that I will soon see my family again. Those were the thoughts that kept my father alive in the concentration camp. My father, Cho Lee, was born in Hue, Vietnam in 1954. He was the second oldest son in his family of 11. As a child, my father had ambitions to follow his father's footsteps, which were to become a doctor. His last year of high school, he made an unexpected decision. He volunteered to join the Army. At the age of 19, my father put on his uniform with pride. As my father said, there were no past life experiences that led me to this decision. It was purely because of my love for my country. However, war wasn't what he thought it would be. After the U.S. Army withdrew from Vietnam, the capital of Saigon fell in the hands of the communists. He was captured and detained in a concentration camp. Like many other officers, he was locked up in a malaria-infested jungle area with awful living conditions. He and the other inmates would wake up 6 in the morning to do back-breaking and dangerous labor jobs until sunset. They would return to their 4-feet wooden box cell and curl up in a feeble position until they were forced to work again the very next day. He even witnessed hundreds of camp inmates die from lack of food, shelter, and medicine. He even saw his camp inmates get shot for trying to escape or blown up trying to deactivate minefields with their bare hands as part of their labor job, so the regime will not have to waste valuable bullets on them. The conditions at the camp were too extreme for my father, and it eventually took a toll on his body, and thus he tried to escape. He did, but only to be captured again 1 month later. 4 years later, my father was released from the camp and returned to the life that he left behind. As he passed through towns with familiar faces, through the pile of disheveled building and across the bridge, then through the piles of rotten bodies that was piled up for the family members to identify, he finally reached his home. Reflecting on his experiences, he realized that freedom is the most precious treasure a person could possess, and it is also the easiest to be taken away if it is not protected. That is why he had no regrets of joining the army and serving his country. Sadly, though, he wasn't the same person who had first put on that uniform. I felt a huge emptiness after the war, he stated. I found that I had lost everything, including my identity and my country. I cannot go back to a normal life because of the large gap of difference between the North and the South. The most important aspect of myself was stolen from me. Being abandoned and mistreated made me feel like I had forgotten or even lost the qualities that defined who I was. Many years later, my father married a beautiful woman and had 3 sons. Together, they moved to America and were blessed with a beautiful daughter, in hopes that his children would be given the chance to pursue happiness.